It's time for Q&A in the Kitchen. It's a podcast and YouTube series where tattoo experts and piercing expert talk about some of the more common questions that those that collect tattoos and piercings ask. Brought to you in part by Skin Kitchen Tattoo, the Axiom Body Piercing Studio, and Deaf Before Decaf. This week we have the regular crew, the usual.
Same crew.
Yes. We've done way too many of these.
Yeah, never.
We're just getting started, baby.
I think this is episode
100 some.
No. It'd be episode 18 of season 2. So that's close over 50.
Yep. Nice. Don't quote him on that. He's been wrong before.
Oh, yes.
Okay, we'll see. Numbers are numbers. Who cares?
So, by way of introduction, we have Jack.
That's me.
Of Skin Kitchen Tattoo, owner and operator.
Fearless leader.
That's me.
We've got Wesley, who's also a tattoo artist at Skin Kitchen, and has the leather working hobby where he makes stuff. Not
one of these days I'll bring some
creepy.
stuff and show it off, but
even though
one day we got to catch up. It's busy.
Yep.
With other stuff.
Jimmy,
tattoos.
Who likes to ride motorcycles and do tattoos and travel the world.
Yep.
And me, DaVo. I do body piercing in the Axiom.
We poke bigger holes in people.
And do other things.
The Call of Duty specialist.
And he's a new owner
Kills
of
it on that.
electric bicycle.
Rides around.
Yes, a brand new owner of a juiced scorpion.
Yeah. It's awesome. Fun things in life.
Yes.
Those are scary.
Yeah, it's I got it up to 36.
Every week it's the
I really
highest
need to
thing.
I need to get a helmet. I've just come to that conclusion.
Getting
Like,
dangerous.
Just
like
use
right
the one
along
that your mom
on-
put on you when you were a kid.
Have you been in the backyard measuring to see
soft
if you can get a
spot.
ramp built in there to ride on?
I haven't taken it off any sweet jumps yet.
Okay. Just wait.
So what do we do today?
Yeah. Anyway,
I want to dive in.
so we're continuing with questions that viewers have submitted. If we can't, if we feel like this didn't take them enough time, we'll ask and we'll do another one. This one is: should manufacturers sell or not sell equipment needles to the general public unless they have an apprenticeship from a reputable shop? That was submitted by Vanessa.
Back in the day, you couldn't buy any tattoo equipment unless you could prove like you had a business license or a business card,
Or a
and
tattoo.
they knew the tattoo shop that you worked for, like a reputable name, like Red Dragons, and so on and so forth. But like if you didn't
When I
have that
started-
credential, like even when you went to a tattoo convention,
Yep.
the vendors that sold supplies would be like, "Oh yeah, who do you tattoo
Yep.
for? Do you have a portfolio? Do you have a card? If you didn't have it, you weren't buying them."
It was part of the closed society that it was, like we've talked about before, about how tattooing was this very exclusive little club. And if they didn't want you in, you didn't get in. So you really had to know someone to tell you the secrets and to tell you the suppliers and to tell you the guy and to tell you just
secret
that
knock.
perfect little way to bend your needles and all that. So it was a lot tougher. Now, with the world being so shrunk by the internet and information just being passed every second, it's inevitable that you're going to be able to get anything you want anytime you want, and that's what's happened. So
some cities have tattoo supply stores. Colorado Springs.
Sure, you just walk in.
Richmond. All them
Right.
bigger
So-
It's a common call I
Yeah.
get is like, do you sell piercing needles? Like, no.
everybody else
know?
does.
right?
Yeah. So it's one of those things. A lot like, to me, it's I treat it like other shops opening in town. Who cares?
Right.
Yeah.
I can't do anything about it, and that doesn't mean I would if I could.
Nope.
But I have no control over it, nor do I want really to have any responsibility in that. I've got enough responsibility as far as I look at, and only a very limited amount of energy to give to things. So I would rather take that energy that I could spend on trying to discourage people or trying to get legislation or everything else. That's not my goal.
That's not my thing.
I don't. I mean, if I could just push a button and stop it, I probably wouldn't, because to me, people have the right to do pretty damn much whatever they want.
Yep.
And when people mess it up, we got a job.
Now you could say, that person has a responsibility of blah blah blah. Okay, yeah, and that's true. So does a person who's willing to get tattoos.
Right.
So it's if one person is willing to get tattooed by someone who bought some stuff off the internet and doesn't know what they're doing, fine.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a
They're not
problem.
Plenty of
themselves.
hatchet mans out there.
They're hurting themselves. And who am I to say that just because you haven't gone through a certain training process that you aren't worthy of doing that?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's not my call.
That's right. And, if I were to say that, well, then what's keeping someone else from saying, well, you haven't had the right thing, so now you're out.
Right.
You know what? Leave me alone.
Yeah,
I leave you alone.
Yeah,
I'm
live
not
and
going to
let
get
live, man.
involved in all of that stuff because it's really nothing I can do anything about. The only thing I can do is me in this place
And
and
if
my
those
work.
people out there get their hands on stuff and do bad tattoos, well, guess what? Give us a call. We're really good at covering stuff up.
Absolutely.
Laser's
Right.
not your only option.
It's, so I guess knowing that, being a client, being someone who wants to be tattooed or get tattoos, you have to realize that's why it's important, like we've said in previous episodes, it's so important to do your research.
Yeah.
To go in and talk, ask questions, talk to people who've been tattooed by the shop, by the person you want to get tattooed by.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to get all of the supplies you need to put
and
ink
look
in someone's skin
professional. Right.
and make it never go away.
In agreement with
well,
you
look
there.
back when we were kids. We got needles, thread,
Exactly.
Indian ink. Like, we figured out how to tattoo
Exactly.
ourselves, even though
Always
you couldn't
will.
get tattoo stuff.
always.
Like, you know what I mean? So you're not going to discourage anybody.
Yep.
So just hope that they're educated and you don't get a disease
I would
or
think
something.
as professionals,
but
we
you
don't
can-
we don't like it existing that you can get that stuff cheaper and easier. But you can't have good artists without having bad artists. So it's kind of a give and take. So
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I'm in agreement with you. If you could stop it, you wouldn't, because at the end of the day,
I don't want that
eventually
responsibility.
it shortens the circle of how good I am compared to other artists.
Oh, I
So,
see.
I
Okay,
need a
it's
lot
a
of
numbers
shitty.
game.
I need a lot of shitty
Okay.
artists behind me to make me
It's
look
just
good.
all about
sometimes.
Okay,
well-
that's a good
You gotta have crappy homemade artists that make professional artists exist.
That's a
So-
really good
So
point.
I don't like that there's shitty home tattoo
you
I
artists.
never
but-
thought of that.
But if they
Now you
don't,
got a
then
scale to
I'm like,
compare.
shit. Well, my scale just shortened real fast there.
Well, it
so
doesn't
if
look
we
like
can't,
Instagram.
get
It
rid of
doesn't
it.
look like Larry's at the house there. You know.
What do you think of that point?
I mean,
Devo?
Oh,
it's kind of selfish,
pretty
but at the
funny.
same time,
Well,
it's
yes, I mean-
everything in the world, though. You can't have a good.
So
you
you-
can't have professionalism
Yeah.
with you if you don't have home
right,
start to
no,
begin with.
I want to hear
Right,
what
that's
Devo's-
it's like if you wouldn't really be impressed with the Premier League if you had gone to like a bunch of 6-year-olds trying to play soccer games.
Right.
I mean, yes, I get that to a point.
That seems a bit selfish.
Well, I'm just saying it's the reality of every industry in the world, though.
Yeah,
so
it
restaurants don't grew out of home
But
cooking.
don't
to
you
begin
think
with,
that makes
so-
you sound a bit desperate for?
No, not really. I'm a good artist. I'm not really worried about it. I'm just saying. I'm just
Okay.
realizing that's.
I like knowing there's
the
a lot of
world-
people below me.
I
As
never looked at it that way. That's
Well, I don't really.
is-
And
yeah,
I-
I'm just saying.
I really, not obviously everything because there's not enough time in the day, but I really pride myself on trying to look at things from multiple perspectives
Yeah.
and really trying to understand, the ins and outs. And when I hear something that
I'm
is
actually
that
viewing
like
I'm saying it from my
That's
perspective
awesome.
technically, but when
Yeah.
I view it in my head, I'm
funny.
viewing it from a client's perspective too. You with your home shit tattoo artist or your professionalism, it's a whole
That's-
different category there. You gotta
No,
have
it's
you have to have a whole
point.
yeah.
Yeah,
totally
you
have a point.
You have a point.
It's like the
just-
famous
never
tattoo,
hit me.
the famous rapper with all the terrible tattoos.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why did he get all those done? He's making all this money. It's like, because those were all free.
a lot of times.
And that's
Yeah.
all he cared about.
Yep.
at the time.
Yeah, they
As
wanna-
I always put it when anybody brings it up, it takes two people to get a terrible tattoo. It takes two people to get a terrible piercing.
That's a good point. Very good point.
The other thing is that you have to consider is that even though there are a lot of states that are regulating tattooing, same thing with piercing, there's a number of states. The reality is that it's a very limited basic thing, and their only real concern, now we could all say it's to make extra money, but the only real concern in most of this legislation is trying to make sure that you're doing it in a safe manner that's not going to spread communicative diseases and pathogens and et cetera. It has nothing to do with the skill of the person. It has absolutely. So even if you did say only licensed shops could buy from blah, 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 it's not going to make any difference whatsoever because
great
you
point.
never know how good those artists are.
To say it simply, were there bad tattoos before the internet?
Oh, yes.
Were there people tattooing that shouldn't have been before the internet?
Oh, yes.
Then what's the effing difference?
Because now we can see it.
Yeah.
Really, to sum it up, like, no matter what you do, there's going to be people doing bad plumbing jobs, bad roofing jobs. Does that mean you shouldn't be able to buy shingles unless you're a licensed shingle guy? You know, no.
You can't go regulating shit
I
so
mean,
much.
this is kind of fun, you know, because this has really opened, you know, kind of made me realize some things too. But yeah, I mean, again, I mean, do what you want to do
And be
responsible for yourself. And what does it matter?
In the old days, they would just, I mean, yeah, there was a more hands-on type people, but for a majority of them, like at least a generation before me, they just leave them alone, let them just screw up as many people as they possibly could.
Right.
And the other thing they would normally do is if somebody came in with a tattoo machine, especially if they referred to it as a gun, they would buy it from them. Oh, yeah, I'll buy that from you.
I would
just to get them off the street.
I've done that a lot.
Yep.
I've
The
done
pawn
that a lot,
shops
too.
used to hit us up too back in the day, and I would come over and tell them what they had or what they wouldn't have, and I would always get first dibs if I wanted to buy it or whatever they had in it or blah 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 to get rid of it. And, But they wouldn't sell it to just anybody, and I mean that was cool. I respected the fact that they recognized it and didn't want just any jackass on the street able to infect somebody or hurt somebody.
It's kind of like when cities would do the buybacks for weapons.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's just it's one less thing on the street.
Right.
Yeah.
The problem is you have to find a balance as a manufacturer and supplier between you don't want to stifle somebody that's coming up that just hasn't met the right person yet.
Right.
Sure.
And
you have a business.
you run a business where you want to make a profit. And just selling crap to people. I mean, because I've heard the story of the so and so that sold a machine to somebody that was all detuned on purpose, or and I've heard of piercers that'll sell like needles that have been that they've janked them before they sterilized them to the general public, just to make it hurt more and etc. To me, it's like, well, first off, why the hell are you selling it to these people in the first place if you're so against them doing it?
Yeah.
Well, and you're going to have to introduce so much legislation that
which
one of
causes
our
problems.
carts that we use several of during a tattoo is going to go up so astronomical
It's gonna
that
make your tattoo
if
more expensive.
oh my God, think about it.
Yeah.
There would be no competition. You'd have to go through this licensed person and go through a licensing process, so you're able to buy from this licensed person. Gonna go through
Instead
all
of
these
this company
hoops.
mass
You're
producing this product.
yeah.
for you.
So anybody really making a lot of noise, what are you helping?
What is
You
your
know,
goal?
because like we said, there's people that were fucking people up back in the 40s, 50s, whatever,
man.
and
It's always
we're
been
getting their
around.
hands on stuff. You know, so you're only going to whittle down the competition. You're only going to way increase the prices, and you're going to make it that much harder for.
You're going to stifle a whole.
It will come down to even little things like
Career.
this. While I'm doing a tattoo, if there's only a few little spots where I need a certain size needle, I'll open it.
Yeah,
And I will use
absolutely.
it.
So,
For literally less than maybe 20 seconds on the skin, I will use it.
Yeah, I don't care.
Because the prices are within the
bucks.
realm where I can justify
Yep.
it. But if the price is,
now if it's
10
$30,
times,
not
so
doing
what's
it.
that going to do? Then there's going to be... It's going to lower the quality
Quality of
of
stuff.
the
Yes.
industry.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
not, so
You're limiting
It's going to
Cool.
stifle.
My thought is-
It's going to
Yeah.
stifle.
yeah.
So my thought is,
It's a whole
Advancement.
industry.
And that's what regulation always does.
Yep.
It always makes it more expensive, grow slower,
Yep.
and
it
minimize
really destroys industry.
what it could be.
but tattooing's one of the oldest history. It's been around throughout human history. So yeah, those regulations are going to increase those prices, but it'll still be around. But you're right in saying the quality is going to go down, but people can always go backwards
Like-
in the technology. That stuff.
I'm
all
saying
still
if you
exists, but yeah.
wanted to regulate to the
Right.
point where it
Yeah.
was not sold to the general public,
Yep.
you were
Well, think back when
considered
it did.
Yep.
this very
Yeah.
focused industry that is highly regulated now
Yep.
because we don't want anybody having
Yeah.
these needles.
Yep.
Then it's
think
going
about
to.
when about when the availability wasn't around because it wasn't a big industry. Like back when we started, and when you bought, like when they first started making needles that you could buy, like a pack of pre-made needles and sterilized. We had to make our own needles, man. When they started coming out, them things were, instead of being like $1 a needle, were like $20
Yeah.
per needle. And you buy 100 needles, like
and half of it would be
some
janked.
money.
Yep.
But like, you know what I mean? And because the supply and demand wasn't there, they were very high to be produced.
Yeah, there was
Only a couple
maybe
people did
one
it.
or two companies in the world that were producing
and
them.
now that everybody does it and it's a big explosion, like, these needles cost 75 cents or $1 to buy, which I can open 10 or 15 and, during my tattoo and use the best tools for the job at the time I need
and not
it.
have to
Instead of going,
think,
holy shit,
gouged.
Yep.
I'm only doing $150 for this tattoo before my taxes or my
And it's not going to take long for you to go, well, it would have been 150, but now it's 2.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing a $150 tattoo, and like I've already got $40 worth of needles out here. Now I got to open another $60 worth of needles just for these 2 little spots. Like,
And if you look back into these regulations and when they've gone through and they legislated and et cetera, and you look at the people that were involved with it, a lot of times they were trying to make themselves exclusive to the freaking market.
Yeah.
It was
they
a
already owned it. They're
non-competitive
talking to
thing.
somebody.
When you talk to them about it, it's like piercing thing in Iowa comes up about every 5 to 10 years. Some Bo Punk little state senator from the middle of nowhere decides this is going to be his cause and it'll get him on the news and he's going to pump up his profile or whatever. They don't know absolutely anything about it. And when you start talking to them and you start talking to other studios, I would intervene and just basically go, here's the deal. This is going to work. This isn't going to work. You're better off not regulating it if you can't do this. And you'd be like, well, that's an entirely different thing I've been hearing from everybody else. And I would get responses from other studios. They'd be like, yeah, it's about time somebody came in and did something about so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. It's like, okay, so you're eliminating, for you, this is all about eliminating competition.
Look at the pharmaceutical company and look how much it costs to make a drug come to market. And look who forced that legislation through. The same people who have to pay that money knowing that they've got tons of money. Most people don't. So they'll pay that no problem knowing no one else can, and they're still going to get all the profit. It's kind of the same thing. It's like, hey, give me more stuff to do and have the hoops to go through because I know that loser can't do it.
Yeah.
What's that say about you?
Right.
You're having to use all these external means to try to diminish what you see as competition. If you believed in yourself, you wouldn't see any competition.
No.
Nope.
And it wouldn't matter.
It doesn't
you would
matter,
focus on
'cause you're
yourself.
doing
You
your
would do a
thing.
great job.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you still didn't make it after that, you've got pride and dignity.
You did the right
and you
thing.
were doing the best you could, not trying to stick your freaking stick in the spokes of somebody else just because you feel they're not as good as you.
Yeah,
Yep.
and the more you restrict the ability of people to get their hands on proper equipment, two things happen. It either goes completely underground, which is unsafe,
Right.
or it gets into a situation where, like we mentioned earlier, where it's just stifling it to the point where it can't advance in any way, shape, or form.
That cost thing goes into that as well, because if you're some fucking dude who just happened to get your hand on a couple needles and whatever you could cobble together, are you going to throw that away after you freaking tattoo your person?
Nope.
Hell no. These are hard to get. If you can just order something real easy and get it, the argument could be made that you're increasing the safety because a person is more likely just to throw that away and not reuse it and use a new one if it's inexpensive. Therefore, not only you're cutting down transmission, but you're also increasing the possibility that tattoo is going to heal better because it's a fresh, nice needle and they haven't dinged it on anything and everything else.
And here's the main difference between piercing and tattooing is usually the people that are buying the kit on Amazon are not going to somebody and having them do the piercing. They're usually trying to do it on themselves.
Oh, with piercing
and
especially.
that makes it a lot more dangerous and a lot more prone to issues.
So then even a home artist is probably going to throw the needle away. It's a little bit more disposable.
Yeah.
Because they are cheap enough.
I'll never forget, I used to be diligent. No one under 16. And then the reason why I dropped it is it was a group of friends, and their parents were friends. They were like kind of like hang out together type thing. All teenage daughters, all about the same age, about 15. So I'm like, nope, can't do it till you're 16. All 4 of them went out, and one of them got a hold of a piercing needle, and they sat in one of the parents' basements when they weren't home, and they all pierced one another with that same needle.
So maybe they're a group of dumb. But
I think that's a lot more common than you think.
If you go on Amazon, do you order one piercing needle or you order a box of them?
They have them where it's like literally a throwaway clamp.
That's okay.
A piercing needle.
I guess if I
like one piece of
I've
jewelry.
gone on and bought a piercing box of needles before, but maybe it's just me. I bought a box of them. There's come with 25 needles in it. And same thing with tattoos.
Yeah.
Usually it comes with a handful of needles, or you're buying.
But
All
why
I'm
would they-
saying is it's arguable that it makes it more likely that if you can get a box of something for $10 or one for $50,
that's
you're
fine.
more likely
Yes,
to
it's
throw
right.
it away.
Right.
You know, if you've got a little bit of scruples, you're
Yep.
probably going to use a new one.
Well, see, the irony of the whole thing is that you can buy probably a box of 100 for $15, which is a little overpriced on Amazon.
Yeah.
But why would you buy 100 of them if you're only going to do one eyebrow piercing on yourself? So they buy the stupid fucking kit.
I have all the uses in the world for 100 needles.
I mean, the equivalent of that would be like a tattoo thing would be like, a gun that falls apart in an hour and a half, or maybe just one that has a battery long enough for an hour and a half. And then
you
one
call the
needle.
gun to be funny.
I'm
right?
sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that would be a gun, wouldn't it?
Right.
It does maim. It does maim.
Is
little
that a
bit.
machine?
Right.
No, it isn't. It's it's something,
It's a
basi-
gun.
Yeah, basically be like, there's just enough ink in there to last for an hour and a half. Only black.
Right.
And it's $50. You can tattoo yourself all you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the way the self-piercing kits work.
Right.
And the thing about it is some of the manufacturers that are selling it under different names than they usually sell under because they're worried about the reputation.
Right. Well, legislation is needed here and there, but the downside is it's usually only there to make you feel better because you think that they're being regulated. And all that does is make it more expensive for the business to operate, which drives prices up just to fill the pockets of people that are making rules to make things more expensive. So
And gives credibility to some people that don't deserve the credibility in the damn first place.
absolutely.
Yes.
So more regulations don't make things safer necessarily. They just make prices higher, and it makes businesses look at ways to try to make it as cheap or to get around those rules as they can. There are positive effects, but there's a lot of negative too. And again, it all comes down to personal responsibility, taking the time, and at the end of the day, it's on you because, like you said,
it's your decision.
They're trying to make things safe, but they're only doing it because they feel that it's that they're responsible that they're responsible for that. Like people are looking at them to go, well, why aren't you regulating this? So they go, yeah, man, we got to regulate it. Well, what do? Make them clean stuff and stuff like that. Does that sound reasonable? Everybody? That sounds good. Okay, we'll do that, and we'll go in and check on them. We'll go in and make sure things are good, and we can charge them a good chunk for that, and that'll make us look like we're we're
proactive.
We're doing things right, and that'll make us some cash, make people happy. Let's go with that. Good. Okay, great. Oh yeah, in a couple years we'll just raise the prices. Every couple years we'll be making a bunch of money. People will be happy that we're regulating. Places.
And we'll lessen the amount of inspection we do progressively throughout the whole thing because we'll take all that money and use it for something else and underfund the people because that's what happened in Iowa.
Right.
You know this just as well as I did. When I first got inspected for a tattoo studio, they sent out a certified nurse. She was in my shop for at least 2.5 hours, ran a check on the autoclave in person, measured the temperature of every faucet in the entire building, took a white glove, checked corners, everything, looked over my biohazard disposable, everything. And then sat and talked to me and asked me about how I do business. Now they send a guy out from the city that's used to inspecting restaurants.
Contracted.
Yeah.
And now they're using subcontractors, aren't they?
Yeah, our guy's great.
And that's
FYI.
right. He is, and it's not their fault.
No.
It's
No,
just,
it isn't.
It's kind of just the way,
It's
like
just
I
the
said, the system is
evolution
kind of is
is.
that people, expect there to be some regulations on things so they
Right.
feel safe, and that's what the government is there for, is to protect the people. But
you
at
gotta
the end
have
of the
some
day,
self-responsibility.
they don't really
No.
know
What
what's
the
going
hell is
on.
going on in
At the
their
end of the day,
daily
it comes
business.
down to the individual artist and the individual person,
Yep.
and that's why I think longevity, doing research, looking, consult is all very, very important.
Yeah.
And it does take time, but it's one of those
These are
things
the-
that you're
it's
not buying a pair
forever.
of tennis shoes. You're buying, you're
You're
covering
buying the most
real estate,
permanent
and they're not
thing in
making
your
more
life.
real estate.
You're
So
physically changing your body for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You are buying the one thing that is going to carry on with you past your life on this earth.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that you're never going to lose. It's never going to get stole. It's never going to get pawned. It's never going to get left behind. My girlfriend took it. My boyfriend took it. Like, that's not going to happen, dude.
Right. Well, I
You
think-
even go in jail, they're not going
Right.
to take it away
Yeah,
from you.
you're carrying this with you permanently.
One of the best things I think is they're alive.
Yeah, they're living art.
If when my skin dies, when I die, they die.
That art dies with you.
They're alive. They're living a life with me.
Yeah.
So, and they change along as I do. They take the hits as I do. They age as I do. They wrinkle as I do.
Yeah.
You know, they're a part of me. It's who I am. And I think that's a neat part of it.
It is.
And some people will, you know, look at themselves that way, and some people will chase every wrinkle and spend as much as it takes to
try to
touch it up, you know.
That endless youth.
Yeah.
Well, I used to think about that a lot. Like, you know, God forbid, I get killed in a motorcycle accident on the way home this afternoon. Most of the people that I've tattooed over my 20 years, a lot of them are going to live a lot longer. So
right,
my
still walking
art
around.
is still walking around alive.
Literally.
A part of me
At least for
is
about
still
another
being
60, 65 years after.
Well, yeah, but like, think of that. How many people can say, when I die, something of me will be left to be remembered and living and roaming on this planet for that long after I'm gone?
Yep.
Pretty much a guarantee.
Yeah, it's
that's
an
amazing thought, and you know, it's a lot of responsibility when you think of things like that.
And at the same time, if you painted a picture, it'd be here for a lot longer.
If you were famous and it didn't get like lost in a fucking attic somewhere or something.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is that as an ethical, responsible artist, you should be doing all that stuff to begin with. You don't need somebody to tell you to do it, because part of it, a big, huge part of it about being safe, is you're protecting yourself.
Yeah, it's self-preservation.
Not only yourself physically, but your business.
Yes.
You know, because really all the regulation does is kind of slow down the process of natural selection. You know, if someone's doing a good job and they offer it at a good price and they're happy about it, they're probably going to do well, no matter what the regulations. If someone does a bad job and they're not nice and they're not open when they say they are and they misrepresent what they do, they're not gonna be around. That's the main reason, like I said, I don't really spend a lot of energy worrying about everybody else or trying to get regulations to squeeze people out.
If somebody's not my quality, they'll
people
take care
will
of
decide that.
Right.
You know, people will decide who lives and dies. That's why if I die, if my business dies, well, I did it trying to do everything I could, you know, to do the right thing, and it's my fault that I failed, not because I couldn't reach some weird, check mark or something like that.
To an extent, unless the government comes in and shuts your ass down and tells you, well, we don't know when you're going back to work. That's out of your hands.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a whole other topic for another day.
Topic.
Just to put that in there.
But anyway, so yeah, I say just be careful. Buy what you're gonna buy.
Do your research.
Like
Try
I
not to hurt
said,
anybody.
it takes two people to get a terrible tattoo. And it takes two people to get a terrible piercing, or one person. If you feel like the person who's doing it doesn't know what they're doing, but it's a good price, you're going to be disappointed.
I say this a lot. I say there's always somebody willing to get a cheap or free tattoo, no matter how bad it's guaranteed to come out.
Yeah.
I don't care. There'll always be someone.
That override of it's free. Takes over. You know.
Yeah, and that's why you see a lot of musicians and stuff with bad tattoos, because that happens at shows. Hey man, come on back to the show.
I love to tattoo you so I can say I tattooed you.
And they might look like rich, famous rock stars, but most of the time they're in a van and they've already blown their fucking money for the month that their guy gave them, and they're like, oh yeah,
the per diem for the day is over with.
Exactly.
I've already drank that up today. And
so anyway, it's if you got a bad tattoo, it's your fault too, man.
Beware. That's partially your fault. It takes two people to mess up. It takes one person to make a bad decision.
Yeah, but anyway.
So I think we beat that one to death.
I think you're right.
Thank you once again to Vanessa for the question.
Yeah.
Hope we answered it
Thanks
for you.
Watching.
Yeah, thank you for watching
or
listening, depending on where you're getting at. Are you getting this, or seeing this, or listening to this?
Or feeling this.
Depending on how deep we've gone into your subconscious. Or somewhere.
Keep it together, David.
Dream of me.
Okay. This is the third one today.
Let's focus.
Let's
focus.
Okay, focus.
This has been brought to you in part by Skin Kitchen Tattoo, the Axiom Body Piercing Studio in Def before decaf. You can find links to all those businesses in the description. Of course, it's been Jack, Wesley, Jimmy, and myself, DaVo, that's been talking to you for this whole time and lulling you to
Go get tattooed and pierced. let us know if you have any questions. Leave it in the comments. And please click the bell so you know when our handsome faces are going to pop up on the YouTubes.
If you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. Hit the subscription.
Helps a lot.
Click the notification bell. If you're listening to this, just subscribe where you're listening to it because we will continue to send it there.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you would like to check out some of our merch, and we are wearing some of it, actually, everybody but Wes, go ahead and go to our merch store. It'll be listed in the description. On YouTube, there'll be one of those merch shelves down below that has some of the designs. There are more than that. Till next time, thank you for watching. Here's hoping all your tattoos and piercings heal with ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, we hope to see if your tattooing and body piercing needs in the future.
Be nice to each other.
Have a good day, everybody.
Be good, guys. See you later.
Stay safe. Stay healthy.